Hello friends, welcome to helpingtesters.com. So now we will be starting learning what are logic controllers. So let me just add a thread group. Now here you see these are the logic controllers. So logic controllers are which control the flow of your executions, or it's help us to integrate the samplers together. Let's study one by one what our logic controllers actually are. We will be covering some of them so you will get an idea what really logic controllers are. So let me add a simple controller here. So what is a simple controller? Simple controller is a controller which does not do any activity. It just hold the samplers or request inside them. Or you can say it is a container, small container in which request can be saved. And let me open JMeter website, or let's say passport website. Yeah, passport.gov.in. So inside this thread group, let me add one sampler to send one HTTP request. This is the URL. And that's all. And I will name it as passport home. Okay. So as you can see that in this thread group I have simple controller and passport. So this passport is in thread group. I want that this passport home should be inside controller, so I can drag and drop inside the controller. Now you can see the hierarchy that inside the test pen we had a thread group. Thread group had one simple controller, and that in controller we have a passport home. So in simple controller, let's add one listener also, that is view result tree inside the simple controller only. Let's save this. In logic controllers, and I will name it as simple controller only, and let me run this. See, the API has been executed successfully. So simple controller is not doing anything on its own. It's just a type of controller, a container. I can name it as passport test cases, or let's say passports in flow. In this thread group I can add another logic controller, that is a simple controller, and I will name it as JMeter flow. And in this I will add one sampler of JMeter website. This is the website getter method. I will paste it here. Right, and it is the JMeter home. Okay, and let me save this. And inside this also I will add one view result tree. Let me refresh it and let's execute this. You can see JMeter home has been successfully executed. Now you must see that in this thread group we have added two containers that are simple controllers. So simple controllers is not doing anything. It is just grouping this API and this result together. Similarly here also this controller is grouping both of them. So simple controller does not do anything much, but it only groups them. Also you can see if I click on this view result tree, it will give only the result or report of this passport home because they are at the same hierarchy level. Similarly, if I go to JMeter flow and click on view result tree, it will give report of only JMeter flow. Reason being, JMeter home, reason being, it is at the same hierarchy level. Now, if I want to have a common report for both of them, then I need to add view result tree at both of these level. That is, I need to add at this level, listener view result tree, so that it is in same level at passport flow and JMeter flow. Let me clear this and run now. You must see now we are getting a report for both of these, passport home as well as JMeter home. So this is about the JMeter logic controller known as simple controller. We'll be talking about a new logic controller, that is loop controller. As the name suggests, this loop controller is needed for looping. Also let me add one sampler, that is HTTP request, and I will use google.com, and I will use Google request, and I will add another, or let's say one only. I want this Google request under this loop controller, so I will drag and drop, so this request come under the Google request. So suppose I want to check how many times this Google request, I want to execute this Google multiple times, then how I can execute it? By using this loop controller. It has a loop count. Here we can mention how many times this looping needs to be done. So defaultly, let me make it as 1, and let me add one listener view result tree. Let me save my test plan as looping controller and run this. So we will see that request has been executed one time. If I make a loop of 2 or let's say 5, now the same request, all things which is available inside this loop would be executed 5 times. Let's see, I will save and run now. See, 5 times the loop has been executed. If I click on this forever, so it means that it would be executing infinite times. So for stopping this, I have to forcefully close this. Let's see. So you can see it will go an execution. There is no limit unless and until I click on stop button. Now you must be thinking, what's the difference between thread group loop count here and here? The difference between them, I can have 2 loop controllers as well, or maybe one simple controller. So I want to apply looping concept only for this container. Only the requests which are available in these I want to loop it for 10 times, but not for this and this. So in that case, I need to use loop controller, because if I mention the loop here in thread group, then all the activities, all the requests under this thread group would be executed 5 times. That is, the looping would be at the global level. While if I only want to repeat some of the requests, I can use the loop controllers. We'll be talking about logic controller, that is random controller. So let us have a thread group, and inside thread group let me add a sampler, HTTP sampler, and for that we'll be starting a local server, as I have shown before that how you can start a local server. The Loader Web Tools application, I have already described how we can install it and run it. So server is started. Okay, so server is started. Yeah, so it is running, and let me open my Web Tools application. That was, yeah, this was. So we'll be working on this. So let me get its URL. Let me paste it here. My path is this, and the port number should come under port number. This is my domain, and it is an HTTP. This is one HTTP request. Let me name is as webtools1, and I will copy it and just make 3-4 same request. I will just name different: second API, third API, and fourth API. So it's for easy understanding. I don't want to waste time to adding new requests each and every time, so I'm just copy pasted them. So what we are learning here, also let me add a listener here, view result tree. So what we are learning here, learning a sampler that is not a sampler, logic controllers and random controller. Now what random controller does? Random controller does that inside the test cases are executed at any random order. Let me first disable it and run this and check the result. I will save this. I will name it as JMeter videos, logic controllers, and name it as random controller. And I will run this. So it is still running. What's the issue? One is missing, so it would throw an error. I will just stop it and run it again. Yep, it was fine. So similarly, the another request will also run. I have to make the same changes. Sorry guys. Yep. Okay, and I will run it now. So you can see all 4 requests are executed successfully. Now let me put this random controller here and all these 4 requests under random controller. I have to first enable it, and I will put all these 4 requests under random controller. See, the hierarchy is that inside random controller I have put these 4 requests. Now let me run this. You can see in the random controller it has randomly selected any one API. That was 3. Let me run it again. Now it is picked it as 1. Now it has 3 again. If I run again, now it has taken 2. So random controller randomly can pick any of the APIs inside it and can execute it. So this is about the random controller. So in the previous lecture we studied about random controller. Now we'll be talking about random order controller. So this was our script. Let's first save it as a different name, that is random order controller. We will delete this random controller. I will remove this. So we have 4 requests and a tree. So let us add one controller, that is random order controller. Paste it at the start, though the ordering doesn't matter, but still it looks good when we have placed it in the start. And I will place all 4 these requests inside this random controller. I will drag and drop. Yep. So all these 4 requests are inside the random controller, and now I will execute it. You can see that all 4 are executed. In the random controller, what it was doing, it was executing only one, randomly any one at a time. But in random order controller, what it will do, it will run all the APIs inside it, but randomly. So here you can see the first it was 3, then 1. If I run it again, now it is executing correctly 1, 2, 3. If I run it again, it's 3, 4. If I run this again, it's giving 2, 4. So it is randomly picking the order. That's the name is. That it is randomly picking the order, but it will execute all the APIs. So this is the different from random controller. Though this is need to be executed when you don't know that which API should be run first, or you can want to have permutation combinations of API. So in that case you can use random order controller. In this lecture we'll be talking about the if controller, the most important controller. So we have a thread group. Inside thread group we have a sampler, HTTP request, a GET request. This is the one we'll be using it. So remove this. This is a path. I'm just showing you again and again because so that you get in habit how we can use it. You watch one time, but you think that yes, it is easy, I know it, but it should be in practice. You should keep doing it again and again. And in this I will add a if controller, and I will put this HTTP request under if controller, and I will add a listener view result tree, and I will save this test plan as if controllers. That's right. So in if condition we can put some condition, like for example, if this condition would be true, then only this request would be executed. If this condition is false, that anything inside this condition won't be executed. So how we can put a condition? When we were studying a test plan, I told you that we can define some global variables here, that is user defined variables. So let's use them. How we can define the variables? So these are the globals. These variable will be these variables can be accessed by anything inside this script. So let me click on add and put a variable. Name it as a variable only. I'm zooming it so that you can clearly view, so that's why it's distorting it. So I'm giving it a name variable, and I giving its value as 10. So I've defined a variable name with name of variable and given an integer value of 10. Now I can access it here. So I can give how we can access this variable here. You cannot just write variable. No, you need to first give a dollar symbol and then these braces. And if you write variable here, the name, then this variable name. Let me give it as variable name so you are not confused with variable. Variable 1. So with this, that is the dollar symbol and the braces. So inside you can write the variable name, then you can fetch this value. Now this value, that is 10 value, would be here, would come inside this. So how we can put condition here? If this value is equal to 10, then only you need to execute the HTTP request, and that is perfectly correct, right? Because our variable value is 10 and we are checking it if this value is equal to 10 or not. Let's save this and run this. So it has been executed. You can see here it was successfully executed. Now what me do? I will say this: if this variable value is greater than 10, or let's say greater than 50, only then to it is true, and only in that case you need to execute this request. This is false. Variable value is 10 and 10 is not greater than 50, so it is false. So in our case, this request should not be executed. Let's see. I will clear the old result and I will print this. So test case started and it stopped, but nothing is executed. If I say if this variable is greater than 5, let me save this and run this now. Yep, it has printed it because 5 is greater than 10. No, sorry, 10 is greater than 5. So similarly, you can add some condition here, and according to it, you can maintain your inside scripts to be executed or not. So this is why the condition is used, if controller is used. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. One of the logic controllers known as runtime controllers. So in my left panel, I have a test pen. Inside a thread group, I have a request and a listener. Let me save this as runtime controllers. Right. So and let me add a controller, that is a runtime controller. I will move this HTTP request under this runtime controller, and I will move so that it looks good. Okay. Now, what is a runtime controller? Runtime controller is when we can tell how much time our request needs to be executed. For example, let me add some scripts under it, copy paste, and let me put some more HTTP request under it. So let me just give it a name as 1, and I will copy it and I will paste it here, some request. I will give it 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. One more thing, guys. So as this is my local, this would be executed really fast. So let me just take the another website, JMeter website here. So it takes time to execute. Paste it here, and yep. So this is also GET request. I will use it here. So I have all requests which are hitting the JMeter website. It is necessary what I am doing so that I can teach you exactly what this controller does. Okay, so let me just have 6 requests, and I will delete the rest, and I will save this. So now I don't mention any runtime controller in seconds, and I click on view result tree and I execute my script. You can see nothing is executed. Reason is, what the runtime controller says that execute all the scripts for this much time only. If I say execute all the script for only 1 second and now run it, you can see inside the runtime controller there were 6 requests, but it was executed only 4, because what we have told runtime controller to execute this runtime controller scripts only for 1 second. So it executed for 1 second and then it stops the execution. Not just stops the execution, if I have another request at outer level. Okay, I have this request named 7 after runtime controller. Then let's see the result. So it execute 5 requests. So in 1 second it was only executed this request, then it stopped the runtime controller and it stopped, and then it run the 7th request, because we have told that you need to run this runtime controller only for 1 second. If I made it 0, then what would be the result? Only 7th is executed, because this won't be executed for any seconds, so only 7th is executed. If I have a last time here 10 seconds, so result is, see, there is some change. It is acting as a loop here till 10 seconds. So 10 seconds are completed, execution is stopped, and it then run the 7th command. So when we mention a last time, so this controller will keep on executing till the 10 seconds are over. So runtime controller, as a name state, it will run the execution for a specific number of time which you mentioned. Okay. In this lecture we'll be studying about a controller, that is Interleaved Controller. So let me add a controller, that is Interleaved Controller, and in this I will add some samplers. HTTP sampler, let's say I am hitting, or let me consider this local one, right? I'm hitting this, so I'm just making the request which you are already aware of. Okay, so it's a GET request to Web2's application, and I will name it as request 1. Similarly, I will copy it and paste more request under it. Name it as 2, 3, and 4. And I will save it as an Interleaved controller. The name of JMX would be Interleaved. I would be sharing all this JMX file. That's the reason I am preparing these all again and again. I could have just disable and edit win, but it should have been very distorted and confusion. So that's why I'm making new JMX file for each and every controller and what I'm teaching for each and every lecture. So I can just share it with you and you can run it at your end. So I'm saving this, and now let's see how the Interleaved controller works. Let me run this. So you can see the first time it prints 1. If I run next time, it again prints 1. So what's the use of Interleaved controller? What we need to do, we will run this in a loop. Let's say a loop of 4. So each the thread will loop 4 times. Now let's run this. See, 1, 2, 3, 4 is printed. If I have a loop of 3, then only 1, 2, 3 is printed. So how the Interleaved controller works, that a thread will only execute only one of the requests in Interleaved controller. So first time when the thread enters, it just executed this request and then exit the loop. When the another loop came, Interleaved controller will leave already executed one and will execute the next one. That's why the name comes interleave. Leave the before one. When the third loop would come, it will run this. Now let's say there are 4 requests, and if I make a loop of 5, how it would work? Let's see. So it has print 1 again. That is, first loop it will execute this, second loop this, third loop this, fourth loop this, and in fifth loop it will start again. So hence there is the result. So in this session we'll be talking about a controller, that is OnceOnly Controller. Let me add a thread group. In a thread group, let me add a controller, that is OnceOnly Controller, and in this I will add 2 requests. Let me add a Java request. So this is my Java request, or you can say request 1, and I will copy and paste it under here. That is a request 2, and sorry guys, and I will add a view result tree, and I will save this as OnceOnly Controller JMX. Okay, and let me run this. So clear this and run. So you can see both are running. If I run this again, both are running. So what's the difference? Let me add another Java request that is outside the controller. So I have thread group, inside I have a OnceOnly controller. In this I have 2 requests and a Java request that is a request which is outside the OnceOnly controller. Now let me say I will run this thread in a loop. We save this and run this. Let's see a scenario here. So how it works? It went into OnceOnly controller, execute both the request, and it executed request. Next, the another loop comes, then it won't execute these requests because loop OnceOnly controller says that you need to only execute once during the execution. So these 2 requests won't be running again. So it will come out of OnceOnly controller and it will run only this request, that is this one. So in this lecture we'll be talking about module controller. Module controller is a type by which we can make reusable functions. Let's study this. Add a thread group. Inside a thread group, let me add first a simple controller. So we have studied simple controller is nothing, it's just a container, and I will add a sampler. Let's say request 1, and I will add another sampler, Java request, yep, and I will name it as request 2. Now let's see. First let me add listeners, and now let me add a controller, that is module controller. So how module controller works? On the right panel you can see it's giving the name and it's saying find the target element, and it's saying some diagram here, graph here. If you expand this, so it is giving me simple controller. So by what we can do here is, when this execution will take place, the execution will go to this thread group, then simple controller, and it will execute these both requests. Now after that it will go to module controller, and in module controller we have said that you need to again execute a simple controller, that is this one, right? This simple controller needs to be executed again. So with the module controller you can ask the JMeter to again run any of the controller, that is it can be simple, if, while, loop, any of the controller which we have studied before. So let's see how it is working. Let me save this, and let me save this as module controller and run this. So it should run actually. Why it's not running? Let me run again. Yeah. So you can see there were 1, 2 requests. There is no loop inside thread group. So the controller passed under simple controller execute this request. Then under the module controller we have asked to run simple controller again. Now why this module control is important, let me disable this. and let me add another thread group. I will name it as thread group 1, or let me name it as scenario 1, and I will add another scenario, that is a thread group, and I will name it as scenario 2. Suppose this was my login feature. Login feature. Now, in my another thread group, in another scenario, if I want to do the login feature again, so either I need to do this, I need to copy paste or write these two requests again, or what I will do, I will simply add a module controller and I will ask that to learn this login feature. So module controller is not specific to one thread group. You can call it interrelatedly among the different thread groups. I will save this and let me add a view result tree at a global level. That is, this view result tree was in this scenario 1, so it will only execute the result of this scenario 1. I have added view result tree at test plan level so that it will hold the result of scenario 1 as well as scenario 2. And let me clear the old result and run this. You can see request 1 and request 2. So we were having 2 requests and it executed the both of them. So this is how we can work with module controller. It is a very important type of controller which helps the reusability of the JMeter functions and the controllers we are developing. It helps to make them reusable. Okay, so that's all. Thanks for watching video.